Donald Trump just broke the law so egregiously and explicitly in broad daylight that he's now facing public backlash, not just from prominent MAGA conservatives, but also from MAGA Republican lawmakers. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we're talking about an executive order here. With a stroke of the pen, Donald Trump reaffirmed his position as the most extraordinarily and unprecedentedly lawless president in the history of the United States. We've never seen anything like this, and it pertains to the TikTok ban. You may recall that there was a TikTok ban passed by both chambers of Congress and signed into law by President Biden before he left office. Now, a lot of people love TikTok. I totally understand, but the law is the law. And this was challenged, and the Supreme Court of the United States reaffirmed the legal force of the law. They were like, there's nothing unconstitutional about this. This is valid. The TikTok ban is a matter of law, and the sitting president of the United States, be it Biden or Trump, can, under certain circumstances, issue a one-time 90-day extension. Well, Donald Trump is now extending it for the third time. He is breaking the law. So he just says on Truth Social, I've just signed the executive order extending the deadline for the TikTok closing for 90 days, September 17th, 2025. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And he has a screenshot of the text of the executive order and his signature. As even right-wing Twitter noted, with a community note, Trump has no legal authority to extend the deadline another 90 days. The Supreme Court of the United States in TikTok v. Garland said, quote, the act permits the president to grant a one-time extension of no more than 90 days with respect to the prohibition's 270-day effective date. So now he's breaking it again. He's violating it flagrantly. And again, he's facing backlash. We'll get to that in just a second. But before we get to the backlash, I got to tell you, I posted a tweet about this, and I tagged Pisco, friend of the show, my Live and Learn co-host, who is an attorney and a brilliant debater. I said, hey, Pisco Liddy, is the president openly breaking the law here? It was rhetorical because we all know he is. And there was a funny response to this. And I got to give a shout out to whoever William is. He had a banger here. He goes, oh, don't worry. Trump just signed another executive order saying it isn't against the law. And it was just so absurdly comical because I was like, okay, here's the thing. It made me burst out into laughter. I said, A, that's hilarious. And B, I don't know if you're joking, because that sounds like something Trump would do, because he has a childlike view of the world, right? With his narcissism and selfishness. Maybe he thinks he can, with one executive order, break the law, but then follow it up with a second executive order saying it's not illegal. Executive fiat, I drop the mic, drop the pen, and just walk away, thinking that settles matters. I wouldn't put it past someone as stupid and narcissistic and unlawful as Donald Trump. Now let's get to the backlash, though, from his own base. As Mediaite reports, brazenly illegal. Conservatives lash out at Trump for executive order sidestepping TikTok ban. Trump is being called out by prominent conservatives by extending the ban on TikTok for another 90 days. In an executive order issued Thursday, Trump gave ByteDance, the Chinese company which owns TikTok, an additional 3 months to sell the company to an American firm or face a ban in the United States. And then it quotes his Truth Social, which we just read. But the executive order completely flouts a bill signed into law in 2024, which was overwhelmingly passed on a bipartisan basis in both the House and the Senate. The House passed the legislation 360 to 58, while the Senate passed it 79 to 18. Axios reported Wednesday, before news of Trump's extension became official, that numerous Republican senators were against the move. And that's a big deal. I want you to think about this, okay? You're talking about a wildly unprincipled party. You're talking about a party that is terrified of Donald Trump and the political retribution they face from him if they displease him, because he could call for a primary challenger. Now, also to be fair, it's not like all of Trump's primary challengers have been successful. There have been high-profile defeats, like the ones, for example, that he unleashed against Representative Thomas Massie from Kentucky. But still, that's a formidable foe to piss off, right? And yet, it's so egregiously unlawful that even MAGA Republican senators and lawmakers are like, this isn't right. Quote, I'm not overly delighted, said Senator Roger Wicker. I don't think it's a good idea. He's a Republican from Mississippi. Quote, that's not my favorite thing, said Senator Josh Hawley, Republican of Missouri. Quote, I'm fine with him trying to sell it. That's fine. But I think at a certain point, we've got to enforce the laws. Think about this. He is openly conceding that Trump is not enforcing the law, which is being generous because the reality is Trump is actively breaking the law as a matter of fact. He's not merely failing to enforce it. He proactively signed an executive order flouting the law, breaking the law. But again, it says something that Josh Hawley, MAGA Republican insurrectionist Josh Hawley, is like, yeah, I'm not happy about this. And Trump is clearly not enforcing the law. Again, understatement. Quote, I'd like to see the law go into effect, said Senator John Cornyn, a Republican of Texas. A number of prominent right-leaning observers voiced their dissent on Thursday after the executive order was made public. Quote, there's nothing in the law or the Constitution that allows for this, wrote Dispatch editor-in-chief Jonah Goldberg. Quote, Congress passed a law. It has very narrow rules for an extension. He's nowhere near satisfying them, said National Review senior writer Dan McLaughlin, who, by the way, not a big fan of. This guy is really dishonest in a lot of ways, but isn't so MAGA that he won't criticize Donald Trump. He just grades him on a curve. McLaughlin's National Review colleague, senior editor Charles C.W. Cook, agreed, quote, brazenly illegal. This is illegal, chimed in Fox News guy Benson. And a number of prominent MAGA accounts likewise broke from Trump, warning about the dangers of the app remaining under the control of a Chinese company. Most areas where I disagree with Trump is just about policy differences. On the TikTok ban, his actions to keep delaying are purely unlawful. There's no colorable legal argument for him. The law is very clear. The fact that it's done, and here's the other thing, he notes the corruption of this. Sonny, this prominent MAGA account, notes the corruption. The fact that it's done to help a billionaire supporter isn't worse, but it's still disgraceful. In other words, Sonny recognizes this is blatantly unlawful and blatantly corrupt. Max on Twitter responded, that's illegal, ban it. We need to get TikTok out of the CCP's hands. Cat Turd, of course, co-signs this. He's really happy with this. He has nothing to say about Trump violating the law. Carl Cian says Trump needs to shut down the CCP spy app. It's CCP app. I don't understand why he extends if it's used to harm America. There are many things that the left claims Trump doesn't have the authority to do, but he does. But this is a clear case where Congress has acted and the Constitution is very clear. The president, quote, shall take care that the law be faithfully executed. So again, he's getting savage publicly about this. Now, will Trump back down? We have no reason to believe that he will, right? I mean, it says something about his confidence that he felt he could do this in broad daylight and not suffer any sort of political or judicial repercussion. It says something that, you know, again, I hate to quote Andor, right? Which is a Star Wars TV show. For those of you who don't know, you should watch it. It is some of the best TV you will ever watch. It's a slow burn, but it's very mature, very complicated, rich characters, a rich setting, and basically the thesis is exploring the defeat of fascism by, you know, a ground-based rebellion. It doesn't deal with Skywalkers and Vaders and Emperor Palpatines, like none of the major characters. It's basically the obscure people on the ground who do the legwork to overthrow fascism in a revolution. It's very politically relevant. They've got some great lines, great dialogue, but what's interesting is in season 2, they note that the empire, in certain circumstances, isn't even going through the charade of lying well and lying convincingly. It's like they're so indifferent to it. They're so confident that they're not even bothering to put in vast effort to deceive people. And so Trump just signing an executive order in broad daylight, effectively saying, I'm not only failing to enforce the law, which again was reaffirmed by the Supreme Court, I'm actively violating it. It says something. It's a concession that he thinks he is politically untouchable and that he is beyond accountability. I'll note the irony, of course, the irony that the same Supreme Court that says, no, this is good law, this does need to have legal force, you can only, under certain circumstances, offer a 90-day extension one time, is the same Supreme Court that Trump is openly defying, and they're also the same Supreme Court that said that he was entitled to sweeping, damn near sovereign presidential immunity. So again, this is almost the courts and the judiciary being hoisted by its petard, and the American people are caught in the loop as well. But there you have it. Regardless of what you feel about the TikTok ban, I spent many hours scrolling through TikTok. It's definitely a time sink, and I know a lot of people love it. Whether we like it or not, it is a valid law with overwhelming bipartisan support. Trump has been instructed by the Supreme Court that it is good law that he must follow. He is breaking the law egregiously, being called out by Republican lawmakers and prominent conservatives, and he doesn't give a damn. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.